Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on November 12th, 2021 at approximately 1:59 p.m. PST. Well, things are progressing intriguingly. I managed to get, it's a little early for it, but I managed to get, aside from one thing which has to come in tomorrow, I think, next week, within the week. I'm done with my Christmas shopping. Christmas cards are about to go out the window. Whether you believe in Christmas, whether you follow that or not, doesn't matter from my end. Okay, what matters from my end is I return to this world for one reason and one primary reason. Okay, that reason being to pass on a word to every entity in existence. And for that, I'm going to require your assistance if you would be kind enough. That message is that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Doesn't matter what your religion, doesn't matter what your social focus is, does not matter what your orientation is, political alignment, doesn't matter. We're all in exactly the same boat. We're all right here, right now. And no matter how you got to where you are, okay, you're still starting right here and right now. This is the only time in existence that you can affect any sort of change. Okay, whether you believe in loop existence or whether you believe in linear, again, doesn't matter. We're still dealing in the here and now. Okay, with that in mind, okay, I've been talking about how to straighten life out. Now, these are tools that I personally use, which is why I call myself a spiritual guide. The tools I offer are the same ones that I personally use in my own life. The philosophies I talk about are the same ones that I follow. Now, sooner or later, I'm probably going to end up dealing with religion itself head on, but for the moment, I'm just going to put it to you this way. What you call the individual you worship, what you call that energy, that's up to you. Because ultimately, it all boils down to the same thing. People on the whole, and even non-corporeals, when I'm talking people, I mean everyone in existence. Okay, but let's stick to humans specifically for the moment. You all have, you're all kids, as in you all have a mother and a father. Whether you were born through normal or through standard traditional methods, test tube, if you were born through artificial insemination, doesn't matter. You still had a male and a female counterpart as far as parents went, even if you don't know who they were. Okay, so you're all children. You all are born. You all die. Okay, some of us more often than others, but the important factor is the amount of money you've got will not protect you from death. Who you vote for will not stop you from being upended by a forest fire. Who you choose to show your love to will not determine whether or not your boat sinks. Okay, it just doesn't work that way because nature itself is very neutral. It doesn't even protect the animals. When a forest fire breaks out, animals have the same problem. It doesn't matter what their past, they still have the exact same issue. Now, on this planet, in this lifetime, I have personally witnessed a fire elemental, as in a living entity that is made of pure flame. In order to get your life working properly, the first thing you have to do is look in your heart and decide on one thing. What are you not content with? Identifying what you're not content with now is so much easier than trying to figure out what you might be happy with 10 years down the road. So take a look at the energy that you're working with. Take a look at the way your life is. If you're not happy with something, this is the time to alter the path you're on. Okay, I'm not content with a number of things. One of the big jobs that I'm working on is writing the Elderbaking Chronicles. Now, right now, if everything stays on track, I'm about 3 weeks to a month away from final edit. Okay, from the end of final edit, at which point it will go to print. Okay, the sequel will, which is the end of an epic. Okay, I've already got the storyline sorted out. I just have to finish tying it together. And then I carry straight into the third book. Okay, now as I was explaining to my as I was explaining to my I don't exactly want to call it an editor so much as proofreader, and you know they also work as a sounding board. Okay, as I was telling them. Okay, it works out rather well now. When I talk about being a spiritual guide. Not only do I dealt with individual personal problems for people, but business problems as well as all kinds of metaphysical tools. Now, really briefly, where it comes to the metaphysical side, and this actually applies to life, whether you believe it or not isn't the relevant point. It's kind of like whether or not you believe in gravity. It really doesn't matter. It's going to affect you. Okay. But most people deal with what I call standard numerology, which is base 10, numbers 1 to 10 recycled. Now, I noticed some real massive flaws in that. So I went looking into it a little bit further. And I personally work with base 12. Now, base 12 is really kind of intriguing because what it boils down to is your numbers from 1 to 12 are single sigil. Okay, now everybody knows that numbers 1 to 9 are single. But you use a symbol to represent 10, 11, and 12. Okay. Other than that, it works in a similar fashion. But as I told her, okay, it really boiled down to this. Book 10, which is what the birth of the wolf pack is, not only is it book 10, okay, but it is also. Now, here's the thing, numerologically speaking, using the system I work with, the 10th book brings about awareness. Okay, but because it's also the first book that is coming to print, it brings about thought, where all of it begins. And it will progress. Now, the number of books in the saga will be 12 books, roughly 4,800 pages. Okay, give or take. So I'm working on that right now. And as soon as I get done this video and get it posted, I will go back to expanding what I'm working on. Now, I do notice that they've reached a boiling point now. Okay, and this is why I said you've got to take a look at the energy in you. Are you content with the way your life is going? If the answer is yes, then great, carry on. If the answer is no, that's where these tools come in. Now, one of the best tricks that I've learned for dropping stress level, okay, is literally, and again, you don't have to believe this. Don't take my word for it, give it a shot. Take whichever hand, if you're really feeling wound up, take whichever hand you choose. Put it palm down on something solid that normally sits on the floor. Okay, now that can be a table, a heavy chair like a recliner or something like that. A shelving unit that isn't easy to pick up. Okay, or the wall or floor itself. You put your hand palm down on it, and then you visualize the excess energy running out of your hand, much like water running out of a faucet. A couple of common things you may feel. Okay. Some people have described it as though all of a sudden they're feeling like they weigh a little more. Well, that's because when you bleed off excess energy, your body and the weight of your body actually subsides. Okay. Some people say they feel like there's been a major weight lifted off their shoulders, they're feeling a little more energetic, this sort of thing. And again, it's because by putting your palm down and visualizing that energy coming out of your hand, much like water out of a faucet, you're bleeding off the negative energy. Okay, it's much like if you're eating properly. If you eat properly, you'll feel a little more energetic, a little more, like you've got a little more get up and go. Okay, so you take a look at yourself, take a look at the way your life is going, and go, am I content? And rest assured, and just gauge this for yourself. But what I found is that is that it is easier to identify things you're not content with. And once you've identified them, make a change. It doesn't matter what you change them to. What matters is that you make a change. Because the reality is, if you don't like what you change it to, you can always change it again. Okay, so identify that and start making the alterations. Where it comes to, once you've got that sort of in order, and it doesn't have to be perfect, because the one consistency in existence is that change will happen. It's the one thing that is pretty much unchanging. You don't end up in a permanently stable setup because change is always happening. Even on the subquantum level, change is always happening. Okay, so get the energy running smoothly, and this boils down to making sure the way your office is laid out, that it's easy to find what you're seeking, that it's easy to make it happen. Okay, now what I found, especially while writing, okay, now the first book here, Birth of the Wolfpack. This first book was very easy to write because it essentially wrote itself. I didn't think about much. However, what I'm finding now is that I'm having to really pay attention to make sure I've got the right people, that people that are already in existence, I can put them to use. So I don't have, because here's the funny thing. I'm looking at writing this saga, and I've already been approached with concepts by my marketing consultant. I've already been approached with the concept of taking the Elderbaking Chronicles and turning it into a movie. Now, that will likely be a couple of years down the road, because personally, I desire to have the final book in the trilogy finished before I really entertain that idea. Okay. Now, some might say, hey, get on the story right away. I don't feel like being pushed. Okay, and what I mean by that is if I'm not happy with the storyline, it won't matter whether they are. Okay. I told the same thing to a prospective employer one day. Told him point blank, whether he's happy with what I do doesn't make one iota of difference to me if I'm not happy with my own work performance. Okay, so this is where things get a little bit screwy. So I'm right now in the middle of tying off the tail end. Okay, and tying off the tail end of the end of an epic. And that, as it stands, we're ahead of schedule a little. Okay, but that's why I'm staying on top of it. But I'm writing it with the idea that, yeah, if it goes to, if it goes to a movie, I desire it to be done properly. Now, I am no producer, I'm no director. All I know is what I see up here, and subsequently what I put down on paper. That's where I know. Okay, so when you're working on a project, make sure you stay true to yourself. Make that project what you're aiming for. Never mind what other people think it should be. What matters is your outlook. If you're a painter, okay, if that's your forte, then focus on what you know. Do not pay too much attention to uneducated individuals. Now, absolutely, turn to people that know how to paint or how to write. Okay, you always talk to people that have done something successfully in order to make it happen. Now, in my case, I've taken the Birth of the Wolfpack. I've got a baseline. Now what I'm doing is taking those same characters and bringing them in, and you'll find in the Birth of the Wolfpack, the entire Wolfpack is figuring out how they mesh together. by the end of the story, they are connected. Okay. They absolutely are pieced together. Now, from there, with the end of an epic, it will pick up right where the Birth of the Wolf Pack ends. Like, as in, right after, and it's all one story at that point. Okay, so I'm at this point piecing together how to gear up the transition between book 11 and book 12. So that right now, yeah, I'm on schedule to get book 11 out. Okay, early next year. And I was talking to my marketing consultant, and the really neat thing is my focus is the Yldrbac Chronicles. But I've got another book that's now ready to go to print, and that is this fine little children's story. This one here called Mr. Dreamcatcher. I have no idea what they're going to do with the design of it. However, I do know that I've already set it in motion so next year we can deal with it. But that, as near as I understand, happens after the end of an epoch is in print and ready to go. Okay, while I'm working on that, I'm currently working on, like I mentioned before, 32 books at the same time. No, I don't sleep a whole lot. That's obvious. Went to bed apparently last night about 11 o'clock, woke up for the first time at 2, and then finally decided, no, I've slept enough, and I was up by 4 o'clock in the morning. And I've been on the go ever since. One of the neat little things that I found was by getting out and getting mobile, I literally do not have to shop now, aside from perishables, for the next 4 to 6 months. Okay, I've managed to get enough backlog for myself, for myself and my son, that I'm actually set. I can relax at this point and just concentrate on wiping out debt load. Okay, find out what you're content with. Or more to the point, find out what you're not content with, and that's the stuff you start changing. With the writing that I'm doing, okay, I'm now at a point where it's starting to run smoothly. I know full well as soon as I get done writing it, I can carry straight into book 12 and carry right on going. I just don't have to slow down at this point. Unless I run into another hiccup like I did the other day. Okay, but take a look here at your world. Okay, once you've got your heart sorted around and you go, okay, I know what I'm not content with, so that's what I'm going to modify. Then you work on organizing the energy in your house. Which is why, and I'm looking at this right here, at this stuff behind me. And I think what I've decided to do, as a matter of fact, I'm pretty certain I've decided to do it. A lot of what you see there, I don't really require up there. It can be moved. Or more to the point, it can be put where it belongs. So if I've got the room, which I think I do, but I want to double check before I commit to it, most of that stuff on the shelf, on that shelf that you can see above me over here, is about to go the way of the dodo bird. Okay, primarily because, well, frankly, I desire the clutter to be gone. Okay, and the whole reason behind that, if you look at this wood sign over here, that says I am worth it. Okay, and because of that, and it's kind of neat because it looks like it's written backwards, but it really isn't. But that is the number one best combination of 4 words in any language that I've run across to help with self-esteem and to help with self-motivation. Why should I do this? Well, because I am worth it. Now, you may have gone through all kinds of horrendous things. Undoubtedly, you've gone through your fair share or more so of trials and tribulations. I never did understand what this whole concept of your fair share of it is. It's kind of like people saying, well, do you do drugs? Nope. I did way more than my fair share of drugs when I was still a very young adult. Okay, now I got into them for a really dense reason, but the best one on the market in my eyes. I got into the drugs and alcohol to get a total stranger out. Now, like I mentioned, where it comes to writing, if you're writing something, write about something you know. Now, I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons since the third week in June in 1975. Okay. And I am still, to this day, playing. Okay. It's also, the thing is, these role playing games are where I get a lot of the characters from. And in the Yldrbac Chronicles, you'll find that virtually all of its characters have a baseline in in either the role playing worlds in various different role playing games, various different genres, or they are based on people that I personally have met. Okay, some of the people I met I wasn't impressed with. Okay, but they fit perfectly for the type of character that I needed to write about. And as a science fiction and science fantasy writer, I can tell you, having an anchor point to look at a character, it will make it easier to write. Now, this little character, I've got a character that's coming up here. I haven't painted him, I only just picked him up the other day. But as I think you can see, he is a dwarf. Okay. And you take a look at the size of his hammer. Well, that's just plain normal for him. Okay. But he is also going to be used to represent a very specific character. No, I haven't named him yet. But I like the appearance of the dwarf to the point that I will paint him accordingly. Okay. It's very much like this character here. This is just a figure. Okay. Now, the figure itself, and because it's from Dungeons and Dragons, the figure itself is of an orc on a war or on a direwolf. Okay. Now, in the Elderbaking Chronicles, a direwolf, which, by the way, prehistoric times, there was such an animal as the direwolf. Now, yes, we are talking a fantasy story, so I'm making these animals a little bigger. As a matter of fact, it's up front. Okay, but no, that's a winter wolf. Okay, but this figure is one of the creatures that ends up being dealt with, and if you take a look at it, where he is? Do we have one? Okay, this gentleman is roughly 6 feet tall. As you can see, when we compare them. Okay, this gives you an idea of the size of the animal you're looking at. But by using these little figures, it makes it easier for me to keep an eye on it, especially when I'm writing combat scenes. Because I tend to write very detailed, very specifically choreographed fight scenes that I do my best to lay out. We are talking about a story that is post-apocalyptic. In other words, world collapsed, and this is what is left of society. And there's a very big message in this same story. Okay, the people in the wolf pack are a misfit hodgepodge of people, various different personalities, okay, that find a way to work together in order to strive to make this world make their world a better world. Okay. But this, because of the fact it's science fiction, science fantasy, and post-apocalyptic, I'm writing it with, shall we say, a bit of a more dramatic flair to it in some ways. The thing that I am noticing, though, is in today's world, okay, right now, people are spending so much time at odds with each other that they have frankly forgotten how to communicate. Okay, and that's one of the things that the Wolfpack works on, is getting people to sit down and listen and backing up people that are making the effort to set things in order properly. Okay, so get a project together that you're content with. Like, I start my day off simply. I wake up in the morning, do what I have to first thing. Then I come back to my bedroom, make the bed, okay, and I start getting things moved around. Now, the reason I do that is because the second I've made my bed first thing in the morning, well, the first major obstacle And this is something where this little one here, this little booklet here, Believe in Yourself and Follow Your Dreams, contains the keys to taking your life from wherever it is and turning it into a life that you like, okay, that you're content with. And that really boils down to a simple issue. Okay. It boils down to the first obstacle of your day. When you wake up, wait long enough for your eyes to focus, because I'll tell you, if your eyes aren't focused, walking very far doesn't work well. At least it certainly doesn't for me. Get your bedroom sorted out so that when you go back to it, it's completely empty. You can crawl into bed when you're ready. It's done. Then you get in, then you go back into your office where you work on finances. Okay. And make sure your books are all up to date. Stay on top of it, because much as the world does not revolve around money, the modern society is geared to look at money rather succinctly. So by staying on top of your finances, you can keep your household running properly, which is why right now I probably have somewhere close to 6 months of food in the house that I don't have to worry about. Okay, even if all of a sudden things get a little bit screwy, I've got the food. Aside from perishables, I've got good, solid, healthy food. Well, what passes for healthy in today's world, already in my house. Now, the fact that I happen to be somewhat reclusive, okay, does kind of give me a pretty severe, incentive to stay put. Okay, get things moving in the right direction. The more effectively your household runs, the less struggle you're going to have with the real world outside. Okay. And I woke up this morning and was really pleasantly surprised. I thought, actually, as you know, I've been watching what my weight does. And I thought I was up a bunch. As it turned out, I'm actually down a little, which is great. And I'm staying on top of that because I've got a goal that I desire to reach. Now, clearly at this rate, I'm not likely to make it down. I might make it down. Let's see, we are now in the middle of that'd be 6 weeks. It'd be tight. If I increase my weight drop a little, I may just break the 200 mark before New Year's. Okay, it's not a make or break deal for me. What matters right now is that I'm healthy. Okay, I haven't been sick aside from a heart attack, couple of teeth infections, and stroke. I haven't been sick. I haven't got the flu, the cold, none of that. Heck, I've only had a couple three migraines in the same 25-year period. Okay, thank heavens that's all it's been. Because I'll tell you, with a healing rate like mine, most people, if they get a migraine, you take a couple of aspirin and you're fine. In my case, I'm going through 3 to 4 times the medication, which, needless to say, is bad for the liver. Okay, but that's something else I'm working on sorting out. Now, I keep these to the half-hour mark, so I will be back again tomorrow. I'm going to plan something out a little bit more solidly for tomorrow. But I will be back again tomorrow. Until that time, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.